Hello, everyone, and welcome to Psychology 1000, General Psychology. This video is just to introduce myself and to talk about the course in general. We're not going to go into specific course content yet. I'll save that for the first module of the course, which should be up now. But this is the first thing to watch. This is the introduction to the course. I'll give a broad overview what the course is about, and also talk about course policies. And everything I'm going to say here is going to be in the syllabus as well, which should be available on Blackboard. If you have any trouble finding it or opening it, just let me know. But again, this is just an introduction. So welcome to the course. Okay, so this course in particular, what is it about? Well, it's an overview of psychology, psychological processes, and mental function. So it's about the mind. How does the mind work as far as we know? What all is involved in mental function? So for example, we'll start with the history of psychology. We'll actually do that this first week. And as the course goes on, we get into specific fields. I'll go back and talk about the history of those fields a little bit. But this week's content is a lot about the history of psychology. People have been thinking about the mind for thousands of years. So how did that process evolve? How have theories about mental function evolved over centuries? And of course, a lot of changes got made once the scientific method was introduced. So we'll talk about that as well. We'll talk about methodology next week, actually. But this week we'll talk about the history, going back thousands of years, looking at people's thoughts on how the mind worked. What were mental functions? Where did thoughts reside, for example? Now, of course, we know that the brain is the critical organ for mental function. But for a long time, people weren't sure of that. And we'll talk about that in Module 1. But the brain is the most complex organ that we have. And it's been slow but steady progress trying to understand how it works. And we know quite a bit about how the brain works. We certainly don't know everything. There are a lot of things still to be found out about the brain. But we know some about how the brain works and how brain cells, called neurons, function and how they support our mental processes. So we'll talk about the brain, we'll talk about the senses. How do we bring sensory information from the outside world in? How do we process it so that we know what's going on around us? What do we do with that information? We'll talk about things like learning and memory. These are very important mental processes. We have to be able to not just take in information, but store it, use it somehow. If it was just coming in and then it was gone the next minute, that wouldn't do us nearly as much good as if we could remember it. Remember what things are to be sought out, what things are to be avoided. How do we remember information like where we live, who our friends are? So we'll talk about learning and memory for a couple of weeks. We'll also talk about social psychology. Humans are inherently social creatures, and we depend on social interaction for our survival, but also for our mental health. That's not to say that every single social interaction benefits us, but social function is a critical part of our psychology. So we'll talk about how we are influenced by others, for example, how we learn from other people, how interacting with other people can be helpful or harmful. And so social psychology is a whole field within psychology. We'll also talk about psychological disorders. And there are numerous psychological disorders. We'll spend a couple of weeks on what the disorders are and the current approach to treating them. There unfortunately aren't treatments for all psychological disorders, but there are for many of them. There are therapeutic approaches, there are pharmacological approaches. And we'll talk about those different treatments, how effective they are, what the pros and cons are when it comes to psychological disorders. So that's the content of the course, and of course that will take the entire semester to go through. I've just summarized it there. But what are our objectives? What are we trying to do with this knowledge? Well, the first is to emphasize critical thinking. So this is a course about the science, psychology. And of course, part of science is evaluating evidence, trying to see how plausible a certain theory is, or a hypothesis, or trying to interpret data. So that's what critical thinking is about. It's about evaluating the evidence in front of us and deciding whether or not a certain conclusion is supported. And so we'll be using that a lot. Of course, one of the points of the course is just to give you a general background in psychology, to give you knowledge about each of these little subdisciplines. And I say little, each of them is a giant field unto itself, but because there's so much content, this will be a broad overview. And perhaps if you're interested in a particular topic, like the brain or cognition, thinking, or social psychology or psychological disorders, the department has follow-up courses for each of those topics. And so if one of them particularly interests you, there is a course that you can take to learn a bit more. And of course, there are entire careers in the field of psychology, and we'll talk about that this week as well. And finally, I want to give you an appreciation for the fact that psychology operates on a lot of different scales. What do I mean by that? Well, certainly we have the individual, and mental function is an important part of the individual. It's what helps us get around in the world. It's what motivates us, helps us derive satisfaction from certain actions, certain endeavors, lets us relate to other people, for example. Social function, again, a very important part of psychology. Uh, but it operates on scales beyond just the individual. It operates on a very small scale. So when we're talking about the brain, we can go down to individual cells and even individual parts of cells. We can go up to entire societies or the world at large. How does psychology impact our society's function? So thousands, millions, even billions of people. So that's a very large scale. So we go from the very small to the very large, and psychology is important, and psychology research goes on at all of these scales. So part of the course is giving you an appreciation for that, that psychology covers a wide range of applications. So first, I want to introduce myself. So I'm Dr. Damon Tomlin. I'll be your instructor for the course. And this is my email, so my UCCS email address. That will be my primary point of contact with you. So if you need to meet with me, my office is Columbine 4028. My office hours are actually by appointment, so you'll see that in the syllabus. And what that means is I'm happy to meet with you in person if you would like, but first just shoot me an email so we can set up a meeting time. Generally, I'm available on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. If that works for you, great, we'll stick to that. If not, we can work out another time. We'll just set up a meeting over email, and then we can meet in Columbine. We do have a teaching assistant for the course, Josh Mantovani. So this is his email. And so, again, email, primary form of communication for the course. If you have a question about class content, feel free to send that email to Josh or myself. If you have a question about class structure or grading, for example, send those emails to me. His office is in Columbine 4044. And he holds regular office hours on Monday afternoons from 1 to 2. So if you have a question about class content and you're on campus, you can swing by and ask him, again, or shoot him an email, shoot me an email. Or we also are going to have a class discussion board. Now, that's mainly used for our weekly discussion questions. I'll talk more about that here in a bit. But there will also be a section for questions about the course itself. If you're curious about a particular topic, or didn't understand a concept, or have a question, again, about the course structure, you can post those on the class discussion board. And email is the primary form of communication. So, again, please be clear and thorough in your emails. Please be respectful, of course. But email is the first way of getting a hold of either Josh or myself. Please give me and Josh at least 24 hours to get back to you. I'm very diligent about email. I have never missed a student email, and I don't plan on starting now. But sometimes it takes a little while. Either if it's 2 in the morning, I'm not going to see that until the next morning, or if I have to go check on something. So if it's a departmental question, sometimes it takes a while to go find that information and get back to you. But I promise I will get back to you. Just give me 24 hours. Very important. Read the syllabus. So a lot of questions and sending emails and waiting for those emails to get responded to can be taken care of just by looking at the syllabus. The syllabus has a lot of information about how the course is set up, what the course policies are, what is going on from week to week. So be sure and read the syllabus first thing. I would do that after watching this video if you haven't already, and pay attention. There's some important stuff in the syllabus that you'll need to know. And also, if you have a question about the way the class is structured, always check the syllabus first. Odds are it's in there. If not, just send me an email. Okay, a word on course materials. So first and foremost, there is the syllabus. And you can actually find the syllabus on Blackboard on the left side of the menu under the link for syllabus. It's PDF. It has things like content information, overview of the course, course requirements, grading scheme. It also has the course schedule, so which lectures are going to be posted from week to week. A note on the lecture schedule. So obviously we have Labor Day coming up, and we also have Thanksgiving break in November. And for an online course, it's a little different because there aren't scheduled course days. It's an asynchronous course. So what I do for those holidays is for Labor Day, the week with Labor Day in it, we will have a full normal week. The trade-off is that Thanksgiving week, I don't post any new content at all. So Thanksgiving week, you have off. Labor Day week, we have a full week. So that's the trade-off I make in this course. In addition to the syllabus, there is the textbook. So it is Psychology for the 4th edition by Schachter, Gilbert, Knock, and Wegner. I think it's a good textbook. I do the chapters a little out of order. I happen to like my order a bit better. But I think the textbook is very well written. I think it covers all the vital areas of psychology. I think they're even funny from time to time. So be sure to read the textbook before lecture. I will assign readings that are in the syllabus. And they're there to familiarize you with the content before we get to lecture. You can also read the textbook at your own pace. So be sure to check that out before each lecture. The assigned readings are there in the syllabus on the right column under the course schedule. Technology for this course. So obviously this is an online course. You'll need to access Blackboard. For lectures, I record videos like this one. So you'll need a speaker or speakers or headphones. Odds are your computer is already equipped with those things, so that's not a big deal. But that way you'll be able to hear me during lecture. There are also Word documents and PDFs in the course that you'll need to open and read. So be sure you have a way of opening those. MS Word, Adobe Acrobat Reader. Again, these things are pretty common, or maybe already installed on your computer. MS Silverlight, so Microsoft Silverlight. I don't require it for my course content, but certain aspects of Blackboard do. So make sure you have that. Odds are it's already installed. On web browsers, so you can use any browser you like for the main course content. A lot of sources will recommend Firefox by Mozilla, having fewer problems with Blackboard. I personally use Chrome and don't have any problems with Blackboard, but if you do, that may be a solution worth checking out. And then finally, for exams, and only exams, we use the Respondus Lockdown browser. So that is a browser for taking tests in Blackboard, and it keeps you from having multiple windows open, and it's been tested for the exam format in Blackboard. So I do require the Respondus Lockdown browser for exams. It's going to be a while before we have our first exam, so you don't need to be in a rush about getting it, but there's a link to it in the syllabus, and you can find it through Blackboard as well. So be sure to download that at some point before exam 1. Don't wait till the last day before the exam is due, because sure enough, you'll download it and something will go wrong. So make sure you try and get access to that early, install it early, test it out. Usually it's not a problem. So how is the course set up? Well, of course, it's entirely online. So there's no need to be on campus. It will be all the content, including the exams, will be delivered online. And it's through Blackboard, which again, you obviously are accessing because you're watching this video. It's what we call asynchronous. So I record lectures, I post content, and you can watch that content, you can look at that content from week to week on your own schedule. So there's no need to sign in at a particular time to participate in class. It is on your schedule. That being said, there are things that will be due at the end of a week, for example. So you have a week to get the work done. But within that week, it's on your schedule. That's why we call it asynchronous. Everyone doesn't have to be online at the same time. And the course is broken up into modules. So every week, there will be a module that's posted. Now, the way the syllabus is structured, one module will often carry into the next week. But the modules themselves will cover a unit of content. So we'll have a module on learning, a module on social psychology. And so those modules help divide the content of the course into subject areas. And you can find those modules under course content in that menu bar on the left side of Blackboard. Now when you open a module, you'll see different types of content. One of the things is the overview and the task list. So the overview is just what it sounds like. It gives you the overview of the course content for that module. It tells you what that module is about. So in roughly a paragraph. The task list is the set of things you'll need to complete for that module. So this is things like complete the assigned reading, watch the lectures. I'll also be posting practice quizzes. Those are optional, but they are good practice. Also, when there's an exam that's due, that will be part of the task list as well. There are assigned readings from your textbook. So every module will have 2 lectures in it, sometimes 3. And every lecture has a reading that goes along with it. And you can look those up in the syllabus. It will also be in the task list what the reading is. So be sure to do those because those help familiarize you with the course content before lecture. There are the lectures themselves, and they'll be much like this one. So it'll be a set of slides where I will talk about the content from the book and from other sources as well, but talk about that module's content. What's the subject area? And again, I do emphasize lectures in this course, so the lectures will involve some textbook-based content, but I'll also bring in other content as well. So don't assume that you can just do the reading and skip the lecture and know everything that you need to know. So on the exams, for example, I emphasize the content from lecture, which again may not be in the textbook. I'll add things in as well. So lectures are always going to be videos. I will also always post the slides for those lectures so that you can download them, print them out, take notes on them, whatever you want to do. As I mentioned, there will also be practice quizzes. So those are short quizzes just for your benefit. They are not part of your grade for the course. I do not require them. It is up to you whether you take them or not, but they're just a way of testing your knowledge on that module's content. There's also the class discussion board, which you can access using the menu bar on the left side of Blackboard. And the discussion board has 2 components to it. There's the section for questions about the course. So if you have a question about some area of content, you didn't understand the concept, you want me to go into more detail, or refer you to other sources to look up more detail on, that's one section. So questions about the course. The other section is the class discussion board. And every week I will post 1 or 2 questions that pertain to that module. And we'll talk more about the requirements there next. But the discussion board is another important part of the course. It's going to get you interacting with your classmates, interacting with me. It's going to get you thinking about that week's topic and hopefully engage in those critical thinking skills. So a word on grading, and this is also covered in the syllabus, but I'll go over it now here as well. There are 5 exams in this course, and most of your grade is based on those exams. They make up 80% of your grade. As you take the exams, the grades will be posted on Blackboard as well, under the Grade Center. The policy in this course is to drop the lowest exam grade. So you have 5 exams, only the highest 4 count toward your grade. So bear that in mind. There are no makeups 4 exams. And there are 2 reasons for that. The first is that there are 5 exams and you get to drop one of them, so one of them doesn't count. So if you miss one of them, it's not the end of the world. That'll just be the one that doesn't count. So if you miss an exam, technically that's a 0, but as long as you don't miss more than one, you're fine. The other reason is that in this online format, I post an exam when the last lecture that will be tested on the exam goes online. And from that point, you'll have over a week to take the exam. Now, there is a deadline for the exam. It's noted in the syllabus. I'll note it in lecture. But you need to take the exam by that date and time. They're always going to be due on Friday nights at 11:59 p.m. But you'll have the whole week before that. So somewhere in that week, you should be able to find a time to take the exam. So that's the other reason we don't do makeups in this course. The lowest grade is dropped, and you've got a long time to take the exams anyway, so there really shouldn't be a need for makeup exams. All that being said, I would advise you to take all 5 exams. Emergencies crop up. If you suddenly find that you can't take an exam during the designated week, and you've already skipped one, then you're going to be in trouble. So do take all the exams. That's what I recommend. You don't, strictly speaking, have to. You've taken the first 4 exams and you're happy with your grade, then you don't need to take the 5th one. But I would not advise that in general. I would not advise skipping an exam on purpose. So that's 80% of your grade. 10% of your grade comes from the discussion board. So as I said, every week I'll post a discussion question or 2, and you can respond to my post or to the post of another student. Now you need to participate in discussion 5 times during the course of the semester, so roughly 1/3 of all the weeks we have in the course. Your post needs, aim for about 150 words or so. If you want to go longer, that's fine. But you should be clear, so write well. It should be thorough, so you should write a coherent paragraph or 2 about the question. And these are going to be open-ended questions, getting your thoughts, getting you to think about the topic. This is not something where I ask a question, you go look it up in the textbook or up in lecture, and then just write the answer. It is not a test of knowledge. The idea is to get you thinking and get you listening to your classmates. So that's 10% of your grade. So as long as you participate in discussion 5 times, and your responses are coherent, they're on topic, they're well written, then you get full credit. You can participate more than that if you like, even if you've already gotten full credit, or if you didn't get full credit for one of your posts, you can keep on participating in discussion. That is totally fine. If a topic particularly interests you also, you can participate again. But just to be clear, you have to participate in 5 different weeks. And you can't participate 5 times in 1 week and then just be done. You only get 1 post per week. There's also the research requirement. So this is another 10% of your grade. And most of the time, students will go through the SONA system. So there are 2 ways to get this requirement satisfied. One is through the SONA system. SONA is the department's website for setting up experiments. As we'll see, psychology depends a lot on experiment, and we need participants for those experiments. So some of these experiments are online, some are in person. It is up to you what you would like to participate in. And so you can go to the SONA system, register, and then participate in experiments. And depending on how many points you get for an experiment, and the points vary with the length of the experiment. So it could be worth half a point or 1 point. As long as you get up to 5 total, then you've satisfied the research requirement. So again, this is through the SONA system, and you can look in the syllabus for more details about that requirement, about the SONA system, and signing up for it. There's a link in the syllabus that you can go to. And so that is one way to get your research requirement satisfied. So again, you'll need 5 SONA points total. The other way is through summarizing research articles that I will periodically post as the course goes on. So these will be short scientific journal articles that you can read, and then you summarize them in a single-spaced, 1-page summary. And each one of those, as long as it's clearly written, the right length, it's on topic, and it's a good summary of the article, those will each get you 1 point toward the 5 for your research requirement. And again, there are more details in the syllabus about that, so please read the syllabus. And that is the final portion of your grade, that final 10%. So if you do well in the exams and you participate 5 times in discussion and you get your 5 SONA points or summarize 5 articles or mix the two, you can do a combination of SONA experiments and articles, then that is your grade and you should be in good shape. A word on extra credit. If your grade isn't quite where you want it to be, it is possible to get extra credit for this course. And again, there are more details in the syllabus about that, but you get extra credit by participating in additional SONA experiments. Now, you can't get a lot of extra credit. We don't want the grade to be based more on participating in experiments than on demonstrating your knowledge of course material, but you can still get a couple extra points added to your final grade if, again, your average isn't quite where you want it to be. So bear that in mind as well. Accommodations. If you have an accommodation documented through disability services, please send that to me as quickly as you can. That way I can get to know your accommodation and anticipate it and adjust course material or exams or exam setups for that accommodation. So please let me know as soon as you can about that if you have one. Okay, that will do it for this welcome video. So Module 1 is already posted. Now that you've seen this and are familiar with some of the course requirements and some of the course content, be sure to look at the syllabus, but then feel free to look at Module 1. And there we'll be learning about the history of psychology and a little bit about methodology. We'll be leading that into week 2. So be sure to check out both those lectures under Module 1. And I will see you then.